Hi, Facebook Live. This is Florence with the Open My Heart Foundation, and we have a special guest with us today, Carol Robinson. I'm going to let her talk a little bit about herself in a minute, but first, I just wanted to discuss the topic that we're having here today. When it comes to our health and wellness, we believe that finances are a big part of our overall health and well-being, especially in this time of COVID and this global pandemic that we're having. There are so many stressors, um, and our finances are at the top of the list. As you're aware, many are unemployed. Um, Businesses have shut down. Many are on unemployment or relying on food giveaways. And, we've experienced loss, death. It feels like the rug was pulled out from under us, and to some, the stimulus checks could make or break us. I mean, that $600 doesn't last very long, or 1,200, or even 2,000, but we do rely on it. Some of us. And so we're trying to make the most of a tough situation here. But we know that during these financial stressful times and these times of uncertainty, they do lead to stress and have an effect on our overall well being. So we're going to talk about it today, real talk. So we are so honored to have a financial expert and consultant here with us today, Carol Robinson. Carol, can you share a little bit about yourself and what made you get into this field?
Um, okay, thank you for having me, first of all, Florence. I appreciate the opportunity just to share some of my experience and how I view things as it stands today and where I stand and where I've come from. I actually graduated from Temple University with a BBA in accounting, and my master's was at Philadelphia University, now Jefferson University in Philadelphia. So when I started my career, I actually worked for Sun Oil, petroleum industry is where I actually started and ended my career. And of course, I was in the accounting department and then in the systems uh, later on. But while I was in the tax department, I had the opportunity to really look at how our corporation prepared corporate taxes. And I was intrigued by that. So I looked at starting perhaps a small tax practice while I was working at Sun Oil on an individual basis, and some small business clients as well. I started a small practice in that area. So after working for 18, 19 years at Sun, I was very young. I was 42 years old. They had a early retirement package. So, of course, I had a nice 401k, and I also was given a package that would pay the salary for a year, and after that, I said, with this type of package, unemployment, having the severance package for a year, and a nice 401k, it was an opportunity to really get out and explore my entrepreneurial talents, things that I wanted to do on a full-time basis. And as a result, with a small client base, I just decided to land on my feet, hopefully, and which I did, and started a tax and accounting practice. In addition to that, I also wanted to do some other things. So I opened a nail salon, which is totally different and out of the realm of what I was doing professionally. but I saw it as a marketing strategy to acquire new clients. And with that, the business grew. Of course, I closed the nail salon after 3 years. It was a lot of fun. I opened a boutique within the nail salon, and that, really inspired me to look at multiple streams of income. That's one of the things I learned as an entrepreneur starting out. And I was fortunate, unlike some folks that start a business, I did not need loans. Um, because I had a pot of money, I didn't have to worry about paying the bills while I was building a practice. There was money there to do that. And when you're starting out and starting a small business, what happens lots of times, there is not a cushion to fall back on. So the planning is not there, and every dollar that comes in, you're using it to try to keep yourself afloat personally as well as the business. And that's where things can go awry. And some businesses fail because they don't have the proper financial footing to begin with. So that led me to wanting to counsel small businesses before they started, having them to develop a business plan and understand what it would be needed financially to become successful, so that they wouldn't have to worry about their personal lives while they were building their business. And I really enjoyed that. So once I had my footing in that, I decided to expand the business to include insurance and mortgage services. So I started that part a few years later and continued with that for some time. When the unfortunate situation happened with the mortgage business back in 2008, I decided to just focus on retirement planning and my tax practice. So, I try to really advise small business people that go into business to try to expand their practice or their business in more than one area. And I think planning is the key. If you fail to plan, you will definitely plan to fail. Planning is the key to understanding how to be successful, and how to it even should spread into your personal life. If you're not planning, if you're not accumulating emergency funds, which is so important, because nobody saw this pandemic coming. Nobody working for someone would think that they would be unemployed. So, folks are dipping into all kinds of funds that can put them in a worse situation than what they would have been if they had planned. So, planning is the key to everything. Emergency funds should be developed. Things happen, people get sick. I had an unfortunate situation maybe 14 years ago, and as a business person, didn't see that coming, either. But I had planned for it, so that means that I had a soft landing while I was taking care of what I needed to take care of. Budgeting is key when you first start out. You must budget, and a lot of times it's difficult for younger people to do because they're influenced by our environment and
Right.
by what's around them. So the unfortunate situation right now is how the banking industry has sucked everyone in by allowing easy access to money and easy access to spending. So when you're spending with your ATM card, you're spending sometimes with monies that you don't even have. The checking account or savings account should be something that we monitor constantly. I have folks that have come to me to have their taxes prepared, or small business clients that won't even open a bank statement to see if it's correct, if what has happened during the month was actually, if they were overcharged for something, or things can happen. Mistakes are made even in the banking industry, and folks are just not paying attention. So when I talk about ATM cards, the ease of using that vehicle to purchase things, to access money, is what has caused us to be in somewhat of the predicament when we face emergencies. One of the things I tried to do, I did a little uh, test, or I should say, I actually set up a little challenge with some of my clients years ago to not use their ATM card for a whole entire week, including myself. You know, everybody is exposed to this and everybody does it, but it's how you control it that will make the difference. And so, what I asked them to do was just take money out for the week, just enough to cover their household expenses for 1 week, and look at what they were spending and track what they were spending, because the culprit is spending. That's what the culprit is. If we can control the spending and really identify what's necessary to spend instead of impulse spending, I think we'll be in a better place and our savings would definitely go up. But I have to say,
Right.
if you are involved, if you are exposed to so many temptations. We watch TV. Now we have the cell phones, and folks run around with $300 and $400 a
Right.
month cell phone bills. And I think that is like, something that really throws people off the curve. But in this pandemic has really brought home, but because the rug has been pulled out from underneath a lot of folks.
Right.
people
Right.
people people are looking at, well, my goodness, they're waiting on, $600 or $800 payments from an unemployment system where some people can't even get the first dollar from them. They know they didn't understand that they would ever be in this position. So what
Right.
I'm
Right.
saying is, you have to really look at where we are, and once we're out of this, try to go forward and think about, because it's giving us a lot of time to think about, how did I get here? How, I have to look for food pantry, some of us. I have to, apply for rental assistance. I have to call the mortgage company to try to get a forbearance. How did I get here? I don't
Right.
have a
Right.
plan. I don't have a
Right.
plan.
Well, if okay, you talked about emergency funds, and we shouldn't be taking out money that we don't have and our ATM card. I mean, if we don't have the emergency funds, we did poor planning. Let's face it, we've done that. So now we're faced with millions of people are even being prevented from looking for work, and they're not hiring. We do get a little bit of unemployment, a little stimulus check. Our loans are maxed out with forbearance. What should we, is there anything we could do now to improve our financial situation? We're getting a little bit of unemployment, a little stimulus check. What should we even be doing with that? Are there steps or strategies to help us to gain some type of financial footing now so we can stop being so stressed out?
Yes, finances can stress, and it does impact your health, directly. But unless you change the mindset, people always look for a patch. And that's one thing. When I was a mortgage broker, I did not provide a patch, because sometimes you have to fall flat on your face. And I'm a believer in this, because if you look for a patch, the same thing will come and happen over and over again. So now, if you are um, collecting unemployment in this pandemic and you're getting minimal, payments from that system, you have to create a budget. You have to start somewhere. The priority, of course, is your housing and food. So you have to look at, with the money you have, how can I spread this money until I get next payment in the next week? The first thing will be, as I said, housing is on the top of the list. Have I done something that can help me stay? Because if you don't have shelter, getting the check won't matter. You have to address that. And that's why you have to change your mindset. You have to sit down and you have to budget, and you have to stop spending it on unnecessary things. So
Right.
one of the things I suggest, when you attack the first thing on the list, which is housing, is if if you have a mortgage, you must continue to talk to the mortgage company. If you have rent, if you're paying rent, if you're renting an apartment or a house, you need to talk to the landlord. But there are also options out there for rental assistance through HUD. And there is a telephone number that you can write down to call HUD on these rental assistance programs that will not only help you, but the landlord to be able to collect the rent. Now, I understand there is a moratorium on evictions until the end of February now. They keep pushing it back, 1 month at a time. But HUD's number is 877-542-9723. You The next thing you, of course, once you have shelter, you look for food. The way to try to minimize what you're spending on food is to look for the partners. And I know in the state of Maryland, there are about 350 partners out there with over 1,450 distributions. So look within your community to find these food banks, these food pantries. If you know of nonprofit agencies or churches, you try to make sure that you are in touch with that information so that you're not running out to the store spending the money on the food with the minimal unemployment that you're receiving. So right there, you've saved some money if you know you can get food and you know your shelter is handled. So if have the food and the shelter handled, the next thing is your communication line that you're looking at, because everybody is walking around with a cell phone. How much is your cell phone bill? They have options out there where you're not having to pay $100 or $150 or $200 for a cell phone. They have consumer cellular that you can tap into. Some of the plans are $20. You know, maybe you're not going to stream on them, or maybe your data plan is limited. You look at trying to minimize the costs that are going to come to you every month, but more importantly, the costs that are variable, like a cell phone. It could go up or go down depending on your usage and the plan. Cable service. If you have a cell phone, you don't need cable. And a lot of folks go out and buy what they call a Fire Stick. But cable should definitely be one that goes. That's something that you don't need. So the objective here is to reduce spending as much as you can so that you are utilizing the dollars you are receiving in a way that will last and spread out and stretch for the necessary items that you will need
Whoa,
from
some people
day
are
to
going to
day.
say, whoa, get rid of cable? Really? Do I have
Well,
to get rid of my cable?
it's your mindset. It's your mind. Again, it goes back. So now you're looking at, oh, I'm in this mess. But unless you change your mindset, it won't ever change no matter what happens. So your mindset has to change. You have to say, I never want to be in this predicament again. Because if you're worrying about bills, or you're worrying about the most important thing, food and shelter, then there's something that you're not doing that is causing you to again have anxiety attacks. It's causing blood pressure to go up. It's causing all kind of health issues because you're worrying. But if you can sit down and write down the things that can help you to move forward, even though we're in a pandemic, there are a lot of resources out there. You have to tap into them. That's the important thing. And a lot of folks say, I don't know. Well, call someone, because all of the information may not be understandable or may not be readily available, but you will be able to get what you need by communicating with other folks.
Good.
Utility costs is the other item. I mean, you're in a home, you have shelter, now you need light. So, and you need warmth, you need heat. You must work with the utility company. You call, because see, the one thing folks do is they get a bill and they don't open it. They get a bill and they toss it aside. I can't pay this. Well, look at what you just spent this week. Perhaps you can make arrangements. There's budget billing. You know, when this first started, they offered all kind of plans with forbearance. At one time, they said you would have to pay your deferred payments all at one time. The CARES program definitely explained that no one should be paying any lump sum deferred payments on a mortgage. It's put to the back of the loan. So folks need to understand that you should not be bullied into having to make lump sum payments. Credit cards, unfortunately, if they're maxed out, you need to look at calling the credit card company. And I know years ago, when folks had problems back in 2008 with the credit cards, if you missed three payments, there was a program that they put you on, and you were not responsible for making those payments. So there, you have to make the call. You have to make the call. That's what's so important. You know, fear can cause you more damage than you opening up and asking a question. Do not be afraid, because that comes to me all the time. Well, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid of obtaining knowledge that's going to help you move forward. So I'm thinking, if somebody's getting $600 a week from unemployment, say, I'm just giving you, you're not going to pay a mortgage. You're going to go to a food pantry. Of course, use any coupons you can if you do have to go to the grocery store, but more importantly, try to get the food that you need without having to go to a grocery store to buy it. So out of the $600, you may have 600 a week is 2,400 a month. I'm sure you can pay a utility bill. And if you have a cell phone bill that's minimal, you're not going to spend all of that either on the cell phone bill. Insurance, health insurance, hopefully, you know, if you're unemployed, you get it through the market, health insurance marketplace. But life insurance is the one thing, it's almost up there with mortgages, that you need to keep, because with COVID and the rapid, you know, deaths that are occurring, you need to make sure that you have the money's there for final expenses if your loved ones pass away, if it's on someone that's in your immediate family. So you want to make those life insurance premiums. You want to keep that up, because I'm telling you, the underwriting will be very difficult after COVID to get life
Mhm.
insurance. They're
Wow.
working on that right now. So in order to, if you have any underlying condition, if you have COVID, it's going to be difficult. You can get it, but what I mean by difficult is that the premiums are going to be extremely high. And then that's going to, you know, put a certain group of us out of the market for being able to obtain life insurance. So
Good
get your
stuff.
life insurance now before, if you are able to, particularly on the younger folks, it's pennies on the dollar to obtain that. So that's very important to be looking at. But folks are worrying about their food and their shelter, and that's why I think
Right.
if you look at the things that you can get without having to spend money, and that's what you want to do. You want to look at, how can I do something without spending money? How can I take care of my family? How can I, you know, keep shelter, a roof over our heads? How can I make sure we have enough food and our cupboards are filled? You know, you want to look at how I can do that without having to spend the money. So the money that does come in, you're reserving it for things like the utilities, or, you know, a minimal cell phone bill.
That's good stuff. We're talking with Carol Robinson, and she is our expert financial consultant and tax specialist. And she's given up some really good information. You're putting things in perspective when you talk about what you can do with that money that you're receiving. You're talking about putting your applying for forbearance on the mortgage through the CARES Act. They put it on the back of the loan, so that frees you up. There's help for rental assistance. There's help for utility assistance. You're talking about the food pantries getting food. So this really put things in perspective. I have one person that did have a question, or maybe it's a comment. She got rid of her cable and got the Fire Stick and just kept the Wi-Fi. It saved them a lot of money, and she said, "You are right. We are learning to be a survivor, just like her grandparents taught her."
Exactly. And there were so many things our grandparents did, which is where I actually got my entrepreneurial spirit, because my grandfather owned
Yes.
several businesses years ago in Philadelphia. But I also want to talk about the stimulus payment, because a lot of folks didn't
Let me
qualify.
just thank you, Rachel, for that question. Go ahead.
Okay, the stimulus payments coming out. There's a lot of confusion around that. Some people received it, some people didn't. Some people didn't receive it for their dependents under 16 and under. Um, that stimulus credit, I should say. It's a forgivable credit. It's called the recovery rebate credit. Will be on the tax return. So if you did not receive it and you were eligible to receive it, it will be there in the form of a credit, which will reduce your taxes or give you a higher refund or give you an actual payment if you have no tax liability. And
I'm
that's very
sorry.
important.
Can you please repeat that? I heard you, but it just went over my head.
Okay. So the two stimulus checks that were sent, or payments that were sent out, the $1,200 payment and the $600 payment, even though the 600 came early January, they will appear on your 2020 tax return when you're preparing that tax return. And for those that didn't receive either one, you will be able to receive it in the form of a credit, which means if you have a high tax liability, that payment, you won't get it as a check in your hand like the others did, but your tax liability would come down by the credit. If you have no tax liability, then you will receive a payment, um, either one or both. So that's important to know. You got to remember if you received it, and most people know if they did. There's a notice coming out from the IRS, and it's Rev 1444, notice 1444, where you will be told or given what you should have received. Now, if you didn't receive it, then that means it's a problem with the Internal Revenue and you need to be contacting them.
Okay, so you're saying claim your stimulus checks when you file your taxes.
What I'm saying is, if you did not receive it, it will be something that has to be reported. If you didn't receive it, it's the opportunity to get it as a credit on 2020 taxes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, let's see. Preparedness. Rachel said preparedness is what we need to teach our children. Yes, absolutely. So, what about small businesses or even nonprofits who are suffering during this time? What advice would you have?
Well, right now there are two program, three actually. There is the Paycheck Protection Program, round one, and there's the Paycheck, which ended, and now it has been revived as the Paycheck Protection Program round two for nonprofits and small businesses. Um, you either have payroll or you don't have payroll, because self-employed people are also eligible for that. And it's a very simple formula for people that are sole members of LLCs, or just 1099 filing a Schedule C, which is a sole proprietorship. You simply take your net profit when you're applying. What you're applying for and how much you would receive is based on your annual net profit on your 2019 or 2020 tax return, if that's done. Um, that net profit, annual net profit on that Schedule C, is divided by 12, and then multiply. You come up with an average monthly, and then by um, multiplied by 2.5. So if it's 25,000, the way it works out, if someone has a 25,000 net profit for the 2019 tax year or 2020, it works out where their paycheck protection loan amount, which is a forgivable loan because you will be able to file a forgiveness application, which means it's really free money. You would probably receive somewhere around $5,000 in the loan, and that's forgivable. Now, the second round, if you have already received a paycheck protection program loan, the second round the SBA has just put out is allowing you to file or draw another amount. However, you must prove that you had a 25% reduction in income from the prior year. So you have to say that 2020 was 25% less than 2019 in any quarter. So
That's
that's
good
for the
information.
Paycheck Protection Program. Now, EIDL, which is the Emergency Injury Disaster Loan, which expired December the 31st, the loan itself, but there were two pieces to it. There was the grant piece and then the loan piece. The loan is a 30-year loan. That's like a mortgage. So that's for businesses that really were suffering, and I would say restaurants that really were trying to survive, and over a long period of time they would be making small payments. The interest rate is pretty low on that. The EIDL grant was a $10,000 grant, the first round. So if you applied for either the grant or the loan and you did not receive it, SBA is reaching out via email to those people. They're trying to take care of all the people that did not make it in the first round. They're not accepting new applications until they have taken care of everyone that did not get in the first time. And the EIDL grant was based on originally, if you had one employee yourself or you had two or three employees, it was only going to give you $1,000 per person up to $10,000. That's a grant that's non-taxable. That's different than the loan. The loan is non-taxable too, but the loan you have to pay back. So the second round of the EIDL grant is giving you the opportunity to, if SBA contacts you, it's giving you the opportunity to obtain $10,000 if you did not receive any prior EIDL grant. You must be in a low income community, and you can identify whether you are. The SBA will identify whether you are. So they're going to tell you you're in a low income when when they email you and I guess take you through a series of questions. And you must have had a reduction of 30% of income during 2020. Those are pretty much the criteria for them giving you a loan. And I had another one I was trying to look for, but bottom line is they are going to be contacting you. So if you got an EIDL grant and you only got $1,000 and you meet the criteria, they will subtract what they gave you originally and give you the difference. So there is no cap on how much they're going to give you the second time around. You can potentially receive the entire $10,000.
Okay, wow. So someone you just gave out a lot of information. So one of our viewers wants to know, how do they get in touch with you
Oh,
if
okay.
they have any more questions?
Okay.
Um, yeah, and let me just also say that when is a time when we should think about, do I need a financial consultant? Um, whether we're working, when we have money, when we don't have money, they're trying to get all of their finances in order. When should someone come to someone like you?
Actually, most of the clients I see, and help in terms of finances is during the tax season, because I have all of their information. But a person really, when they start working, need to either talk with a financial coach or a financial advisor, because it will put them on the right track, even if they just have an initial consultation to understand what to set up. If you're working for someone and that company has a 401k plan, you want to make sure that you're in that plan. So a financial coach or advisor would say to you, does your company have a 401k plan? And if they don't, then are there some options out there alternatively? I work with a lot of folks where I roll over their retirement plans into safe vehicles. There are other vehicles that folks can have options to utilize, but if you are working and starting out, talking to a financial coach in the beginning or an advisor in the beginning will help you pave your way and help you set up a plan, hopefully, that you can use. But one thing I want to say, for those that had to tap into their 401k or their deferred retirement plan and they were working, or they just basically had a retirement plan out there and they're not working, you can up to $100,000 for this tax season withdraw that money and take 3 years to either put it back or pay back a third at a time. You will not be required to, whatever withdrawal you had, to put the entire thing on 2020 taxes. So that's very important, because a lot of times folks, tap into that money, they put it aside, but they tap into it for their emergency fund. And then they have a large tax liability because they didn't have enough taxes taken out, or they weren't advised that that's only a piece of your income. What about all the other pieces? You're taxed on the whole, not just your 401k, because I get it all the time. Well, I had taxes taken out. Well, guess what? That's only one piece of your income. So I wanted to put that out there, because that is through the CARES Act, where they're allowing, for COVID reasons, for folks to take up to $100,000, but not have to put that entire $100,000 on their tax return this year. You have 3 years to either put it back, which is great, put it back, meaning that's no tax consequence, or put it on the return but spread it out over the 3-year period. So going forward, I would definitely say that you need to talk with someone, and also to have you set up a budget so that you can budget your money and put a portion of it away. And we used to always say years ago, hey, I save 10%, I give 10% to charity and I put 10% away for savings. Well, that 10% that you put away is not your 401k, but your emergency savings plan. So you need to start that real early. And then your retirement piece, as you get older, if you're in your 50s and 60s, you're definitely talking to someone that can help you with retirement, financial advisor, retirement professional, a financial coach, because you want to make sure that you don't outlive your money. You want to make sure what you've accumulated is not at high risk. And those are the programs that I, work with to help people to make sure that they're able to sustain their retirement.
Carol, how can someone get in contact with you if they have further questions?
Okay, my telephone number, I'm going to give you 2 numbers. My office number is 610-660-7814. Because of the pandemic, I'm not there on a consistent basis. My cell number, and you can text me on the cell, it's 215-432-7103.
Okay, I hope you guys wrote it down, because usually I get questions. What did she say her number was? So that answers your question, Rachel and Melissa. You can contact her at her numbers that she just gave you, 610-660-7814. And the other number, I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
215-432-7103. And that is my cell, and you can text me on that number.
Okay. Thank you so much. Is there any final thoughts that you can give us, Carol, to help stop stressing out about our finances. You went over a lot as far as, the forbearance, the stimulus check, the food pantry, stop spending, reduce spending,
Mm-hmm.
get rid of your cable, which is something that I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and things like that. And some of the other viewers have already done, which is a
Mm-hmm.
good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like they're robbing us anyway. So that is a good thing, a good tip. And some other things that you talked about was having your own business, your LLC or nonprofit,
Mm-hmm.
as to seek out ways to get that grant or loan that is forgivable during this time of COVID. I mean, that is some really solid, good information to
Mm-hmm.
help us. I'm already less stressed just hearing it all.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts?
I just want folks to understand that we are in the pandemic, and we do now have the opportunity to change our mindset about our finances and to write things down. Don't leave it to memory. If you have the opportunity to really sit down and think about your spending, and I'm focusing this on spending because that's what's causing all of these problems. Actually, I mean, you have the environment which you have no control over, but if we sit down and we prepare a budget, we write it down, I
Prepare
think
a
we'll be in
budget.
a much
Yeah.
better place. And then just try to seek out, the assistance, and don't be afraid, because fear can really put you in a worse situation. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out, to your creditors and explain. We're in a pandemic. It's easy to say, you can't do it anymore.
Right. Oh, your website.
Oh, my website is, and this is going to be, let me get this card so that I don't know if you can type it. The website has so many tools on it. It's amazing, the information that's on there. I'm going to pull it up, but it's A as in Apple, F as in Frank, S as in Sam, B as in boy, .net, uh / fast tax.
Okay.
It
Can you
has all of
repeat?
the information there, and they have I have all kind of calculators for mortgage interest, for buying a home, for saving for retirement. So look at that website, and of course all the information on myself, and it will give you, a lot of things that you may want answers on.
Okay. So I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? The website address once more?
Okay, so it's www.afsb, A as in Apple, F as in Frank, S as in Sam, B as in boy, .net / fast tax, FASTAX. It's only one um, T, and it comes right up. So it'll give you my newsletter. There's a monthly newsletter to give you all kind of tips, financial calculator, the services, links to different pages, to different agencies like Social Security, and our contact information. So, did you get it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. That's great. One question came to mind as you were talking, Carol, about so the checks and everything that we're receiving, everybody's trying to make some money. So what should we do? We are approached by, if you want a car, for example, it's like you don't even have to be working if you're getting an unemployment. So it's all kinds of ways that people are still trying to make their money in their business, and they're approaching you with ways that you could spend your money or you can get whatever it is that you need right now. What do you say to those folks and those people that are being approached?
Well, you have to put the stop out on that. You really do, because what you don't want is something that's going to take you down the road, and on the back end you have a horrific payment to make or to pay back. because they'll make it easy for you. And at this rate, we're not, I hope we're not traveling that much, but to the grocery store and back. So having a new car, if you have a car, if you need a car, you're better off at this point of letting it sit there, or, we have Uber and Lyft now to take us places that aren't far. So it's not necessary to go out there and make a major expense on a car at this point in time if you're unemployed. You know, if you're traveling beyond an area where you're going to need a long distance or something, you can take other transportation for that. So
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying is, do not let someone talk you into buying a new car because it seems like, this is something that I can do without having money, even though I'm unemployed, and they make it, so inviting for you to get into debt. Debt is not what you want to get into while you're in a pandemic. You're not trying to do
Amen.
that. You're not
That's
trying
right.
to do
Yeah.
that.
I
You
mean, it
want
could
to
be a
shop
car.
at the
It could
store.
be anything. Yeah.
Right,
That. Yeah.
exactly. Don't allow, and there are a lot of texts coming through. The cash advances, please, please, please. I don't care how much you need. Do not get yourself wrapped up into these cash advances. There are all kind of texts coming through on the phone where it seems great that there's somebody's going to offer you $6,200. Apply for it. I had a small business that needed $10,000. The offer, when they finally got back to the person, was a cash advance, and the payback was $18,000 on a
Wow.
$10,000 loan. Please, it's not going to be as bad as you think it is if you just stop and think a minute, because for somebody to grab that $10,000 and get locked into having to pay $18,000 is unheard of. It's 50 cents on a dollar. So you don't
Wow.
want to, you want to ignore those things and try to block it or delete it from your phone and not be tempted by those types of advertisements. They're popping up everywhere. You open your phone up, it's just all over the phone. It's not, and you may be stressed and say, oh, that's why you have to reach out to these creditors or your mortgage company or your landlord, and just explain to them, I cannot do it. I cannot pay the bill right now. How, can I get some assistance? And so you then don't get tempted by these unscrupulous people that are sending out, information.
Right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good information, guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much, Carol, for taking time out of your busy
Quite
day
welcome.
to inform us, to educate us a little bit more. So, guys, thank you for joining us once again. You have her contact information. And if you have any questions, you can also reach out to me. We really appreciate her expertise in helping us through this time of COVID and the pandemic and all of the different stressors that we're faced with, and our finances does stress us out during this time when so many are struggling. But you just got some very valuable information. So hopefully that'll relieve some of the stress.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks again, Carol, for
You're
joining
quite
us.
welcome. You're
All
quite
right,
welcome,
take
Florence.
care.
Thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.